Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My family life has always been messed up. For some context, my stepmom and dad got together as they were caught cheating on their partners with each other. They were work colleagues, and the only reason they were ever caught was due to the fact that my stepmom had given birth to my half sister, Rita. I'm quite sure that she tried to pass Rita off as her ex husband's daughter, but the fact that Rita was born with the same features of my dad, who belonged to a different race than her husband, things did not go over well. My stepmom ended up getting a divorce from her husband, and so did my dad from my mom. My dad and stepmom also decided to move away from the small town we all used to live in to avoid being shamed. My mom, who was a housewife before my parents got divorced, unfortunately lost custody of me as she did not have the financial means to take care of me. And thus, even when I didn't want to, I ended up having to move to this random city with my parents. But it wasn't like I was very old when all of this happened, though, so I didn't have a hard time adjusting to this new place and lifestyle. What I did have a hard time adjusting into was the strange behavior of my stepmom. The moment she gave birth to Rita, she resented her because apparently she was the root cause of everything in her life falling apart. Her behavior never made sense to me because she was always decent to me and my dad, just cruel towards Rita. It was heartbreaking because I could see the difference in our treatment from a young age and the fact that my stepmom stayed back home to take care of her and I. Just made things worse from there onwards because she took all and every opportunity to ridicule Rita and make her life miserable. I mean, I wouldn't say she was the best mom ever to me. Far from it. But with the comparison between her treatment towards me and Rita, you could really tell that she didn't like her one bit. This is what caused me and Rita to get closer, though. I was in touch with my mom, and that helped me incubate basic human empathy in myself. I knew I was slowly getting fed up with my dad, overlooking most of what my stepmom did, and my stepmom being the way that she was. I was only about 2 years older than Rita. So even when I got into college and moved closer to my mom, I would regularly visit my dad and stepmom so that I could check up on Rita. All that completely stopped when Rita got into college herself and cut all contact with my parents like she had promised. Unfortunately, though, I guess her list of people to leave behind also consisted of me. Yes, the same Rita that I considered to be my best friend, the one who I thought meant my family, just left me behind. I struggled with the loss of her for years. I tried to look for her in places, looked around everywhere for her, but everything was of no avail. Neither my parents nor her friends had any idea of where she was. I eventually gave up on my search for her and spent the last 9 years of my life without her until 2 months ago. I found a profile that resembled that of Rita unintentionally on Facebook. I sent her a request, not expecting to hear back from her at all. But to my utter surprise, I received a response quite quickly. I was very happy. Just the fact that she had responded to me filled up my mind with a lot of hopes, and we began chatting. We talked about our life here and there, and I was surprised to find out that not only was she married, but also had a daughter of her own. It was Christmas season when we began talking, and of course, the inner big sister in me wanted to see her so bad. So I asked her if she wanted to come over to spend a couple of nights of Christmas with me and family, and to my surprise, she said yes, flying down to my city a couple of days before Christmas. We had a blast. We visited places, and it was like the old relationship that we had was back. Unfortunately, this only lasted a couple of days because soon, on the day of Christmas itself, Rita unraveled her true colors. It was before Christmas dinner that everyone was in their room. Everything was set up, so one by one, I went into everyone's room to call them downstairs, and right as I was close to Rita's room, I heard her speaking very loudly on the phone. So much so that I could practically hear her word to word. It was like I eavesdropped unintentionally. I heard her talking about me, my home, my finances, and how I'll be a great use and throw for their business that was going bankrupt. That was enough to get me stunned because that information alone was way different than what Rita led me to believe. But what I heard next was truly the nail in the coffin. I then realized that she wasn't just talking to anyone, she was talking to my dad, who had supposedly passed away during the lockdown. I still remember when I got the news about it from my stepmom. I vividly remember her telling me that it was due to a heart attack and she had no money to hold his funeral. I practically paid for his entire funeral because I knew that was the bare minimum I could do from my end if I couldn't attend the funeral. And regardless of what I thought about him, I did struggle to come to terms with his death, only to find out that not only was he alive and well, but also on his way to suck me out dry. Upon giving myself a few minutes to realize what was going on, I knew if I let her stay under my roof for another moment, I would blow up at her. So I immediately walked into her room mid convo, and I guess she realized how bad she had messed up the moment she saw the look on my face. I said nothing, though. I simply just told her to pack her things and leave, to which she started arguing with me, telling me that I shouldn't let our misunderstandings ruin the children's Christmas. I told her that I didn't care about her children when she didn't care for mine and went out of her way to do so much to step on their stomachs to suck me out dry. After a lot of back and forth, she eventually gave in and left. But ever since then, I can't help but question myself and my decision. What should I do here? Reddit? Was I the a hole? Rita has been blowing up my phone constantly because apparently she wants to give me her side of the story. I'm really unsure of what to do. I talked to my husband about this situation, and he suggested that I should maybe give it a try and talk to her. I'm leaning towards this decision as I really am curious as to what it really is that made my stepmom, dad, and Rita go to this extent. This situation currently feels very blurry. It hurts physically and emotionally to see the people you've gone to so much of an extent to support just to turn their backs on you and use you as a bank account. More than anyone, it hurts that Rita did all of this to me. Regardless, though, this time I think, just like them, I can take the emotionless route too because everything I ever had for these people has sort of faded away. Everything I will do from now on is only for closure. I ended up meeting Rita today. What was funny about our meeting is the realization that Rita quite literally had lied to me about everything. She didn't even fly over to my city. She just lived here. The more I heard from her, the crazier I felt I was becoming. Rita started off by confessing to me why she had cut me off in the first place. She told me that the moment I had left for college was the moment her mom had started brainwashing me about how I didn't even love her because I had my own mom to go back to. It all made sense then because I can now recall how even when I would visit home back from college, she would be quite distant with me. But honestly, I could chalk all that up to her being in her teenage phase. Well, of course, now it all made sense, and honestly, it felt a little heartbreaking, but that was all just the tip of the iceberg. Rita then started describing to me how during lockdown she had reached out to our parents for financial support because apparently her husband was a deadbeat. Our parents gave her the idea of some business venture for which they needed investment, and of course, who else would be a better investor than me? That is when they created the lies about my bio dad's death. The business bloomed and they got through lockdown. Unfortunately, though, Currently, the business is going through a lot of losses, so much so that they have multiple loans to repay and are on the verge of bankruptcy. That is when they made up this second elaborate plan to scam me. I was dumbfounded upon hearing all of this. I could feel the heartbreak physically that I began crying. Rita just had this blank look on her face as if she was expecting me to say something. All I said was that I was sorry, but I would definitely be pursuing legal actions against my stepmom and dad. Instead of being understanding, she blew up at me because apparently she deserved to be rewarded for being honest. I told her to screw off, warned her that if she tried contacting me ever again or tried to show up at my place, I would make sure to drag her to court just as I was going to do for my stepmom. I guess that was enough to scare her away, at least for now, because from the moment I reached home, she hasn't contacted me ever since. Now, I'm not really sure what my course of action is going to be from here. I have booked an appointment with my lawyers. I'll see how things will go from there and keep you guys updated. I met with my lawyers today and they told me with the proof of text and bank transactions, this will be a pretty easy case. That was enough for me to feel like I wasn't crazy or there was no way to get my parents to face the repercussions of their actions. Even if I don't get the money back, that's okay for me because, like I said, all I want them is to learn their lesson. Here's the final update. This lawsuit wasn't long at all. The case was pretty clear, and from the get go, I was told that with the financial status of my parents, there were very slim chances of them repaying me. They were charged with a short jail sentence, though, and everyone except for Rita is happy with that. I mean, at least I am. This is the bare minimum they received for all the F ups they've done, and it still stuns me when Rita wants to go above and beyond for the people who have done nothing but hurt her. I guess it's her inner child that still seeks for their validation. Fortunately, though, that couldn't be me. I want to be as far away as I physically can from people like them. Thank you all for reading. NTA. Rita became like her mom after all, greedy, entitled, and inconsiderate. If I were in OP's place, I would try to get her in legal trouble as well because this woman really needs to learn her lesson. NTA, poor OP, was used in the worst possible ways. It was heartbreaking to see how, even after doing so much for Rita, she went behind OP's back to betray her. Good on you for taking legal action. When I, 28 female, married my husband, 34, a lot of people told me marrying a guy that is the only son of 6 kids is asking for mother in law problems. But no, I gained the most wonderful mother in law. As for one of my sisters in law, that's a whole other story. This woman is one of the most infuriating, most annoying people I have ever met. She has had some sort of personal vendetta against me. I'm brown and a curvier gal. I love myself, and so does my husband. But she has made comments ever since she met me. She would always bring up the fact that all his exes were white and skinny like her. Weird thing to say to your brother's wife, right? She would comment about how I'm darker and make negative comments about the food from my culture. I'm South Asian. She has also hypocritically made comments about our age gap when she and her husband are 5 years apart. My husband would shut her down, and so have my other in laws, even her husband. But she would do it behind their back, and the one time I confronted her about it, she cried and made a huge deal of it, making me the bad guy. Since then, I've just done what my mom taught me, be the bigger person, and walked away. I would ignore her. The incident, we were at my parents in law's house for mother in law's birthday. My sister in law was already shitting on my mood by coming up to me and making rude comments. I tried my best to ignore her and not ruin the party. My 4-year-old boy and her daughter were playing together when she went over to them and started hugging and kissing my son, and then started saying things knowing I could hear her. She said that he was so handsome and lucky. He looks like his dad and not dark like his mom, and that one day he's going to get tall like his sexy dad. Who the hell says that? Especially to a child about their brother? This is when I went off at her, telling her that her hate parade against me is actually concerning and that she needs to keep it away from my son. I don't care if she's racist to me, but my son, I will not tolerate it. I also said that her obsession with her brother is disturbing and that she needs to get psychological help for it. The house went quiet for a sec, and then she started crying. Anyways, fast forward a bit. My parents, who are also at the party, and parents in law, think I went too far and should apologize. They and my sister in law and her husband have been blowing up my and my husband's phones ever since. My husband and other sister in laws don't think I am. I kind of think I am, and I went too far, but I don't know. So, AITA? Thank you to everyone that has commented and given advice. I have shown many of them to my husband, who has said from the beginning that I said what I needed to say. I and my other sister in laws with children will not be bringing ourselves and our children around her anymore. My husband and my one sister in law that has no children are planning to talk to her one last time and confront her on her disgusting behavior. As for my parents, they don't know the full story, so I will confront them tomorrow with the full story. My husband wants to go NC with his parents for the way they defended my sister in law, but I think we should talk to them first before we make any decisions. Thank you again, everyone. I really thought I might have gone too far, but you all have helped me see things a little clearer. I said what needed to be said for myself and my son. Those concerned about my husband's exes, she was lying to get a rise out of me. Anyways, he ended up with me, the complete opposite. NTA, truth hurts. Her feelings have been hurt because she was confronted not in private about her obvious racism and weird attachment to her brother. Nope. She's upset that she can't hide from the person she knew she was anymore because you said it all out loud for everyone to hear. She can dish it, but she can't take it. Do not apologize to her. After years of dealing with this BS, she is lucky you didn't say or do more. NTA confirmed that sister-in-law has issues. Perhaps it wasn't just the right moment to bring them up. But frankly, she brought that on herself by deliberately extending her weird vendetta to your child. Mama Bear apologizes to no one. For now, I'd also skip the apology to sister-in-law in favor of explaining the situation in full to the rest of the family. If, as you say, they've all had a go at her about it in the past, it hopefully shouldn't be hard to get on the same page about what to do with her now. My mother-in-law speaks very little English, can't drive, can't work a bank account, and many other things that we all take for granted, including getting online, using a smartphone, or simply using Netflix. I have always helped her with everything since my husband and is usually irritated by her. She has lived with us for over 5 years due to a slip and fall. Navigating workers' comp and such would have been impossible for her, so I agreed. I got her situated with a settlement due to a permanent injury, got her disability approved, Medicare, and a bus. After her settlement, the plan was we would finally get her her own place that she could afford. Well, she had started dating a younger guy, the disability bus driver who would take her to appointments. Started lending him money. We put our foot down and explained if she was just going to blow through her money, she would need to move out. We also explained that she would not be welcome back if she messed up and didn't set herself up for her future. Well, 1 year later, she's out of money and is looking to move back in. My husband feels bad and says he can't just leave her on the street. I absolutely refuse. She made her bed and can now go lay in it. I'm sick and tired of always doing everything to set her up and then she ruins it or doesn't follow through. She lived with us once before, and just as we were about to set her up with low income apartments, she took off on us to live with friends. She loves to get our son in trouble since my husband is very strict, so she will constantly go tell on him. For years, she called him her fake grandson because we had him in vitro. I thank God he doesn't understand her language well enough to have ever picked up on what she was saying. I truly can't stand her. It takes everything in me to sit at a table with her. 1 time a month that she visits now, much less live with her again. NTA, and it's hard to see anyone coming out of this unscathed. You do have to look out for your son above all else. You need to prioritize your mental health as well, but sometimes it's easier to stick to hard decisions if they benefit the ones you love. She hasn't taken responsibility because someone has always done it for her. When does your husband think you get to live your own lives and not babysit her? But the bottom line is the last couple of sentences of your post, not even her weaponized incompetence. Your son will learn phrases and pick up on her feelings towards him. Above all else, it's wrong. Your husband shouldn't want him exposed to vile behavior aimed at your son. Not that anyone is going to win in this situation, but you sure as hell can lose if she moves back in. I agree. NTA. If your husband wants to help her, let him do it by himself. Let him find an apartment, pay the bills, and so on.